Yeah, I can't even describe how mad the horse tried to kill everybody. So I go down there and sling a rope around his back feet and flip him out of the tree, and he rolls to the bottom. And I'm like, he's dead. That's a dead horse. There's no way around it. Now we're gonna have to fight bears all season because there's no way we can get him out of here. And he rolls all the way to the bottom, splashes into the river, jumps up, starts eating grass.
And there's just a bunch of fucking tofu eating, fucking man bun wearing dorks and no pussy at all. Yeah.
Hold out, baby! Woo! Is he down? Is he a big one? Is he down? Gorilla of the truck trying to get the damn shot.
Bullshit, man. Look at the thing. 4 more shorts. Yeah. That sack fucking hanging out. Don't fucking doubt the fucking 6mm. Shoot him, shoot him. All right, hold on. Hold on. Let's go.
Let's go! Those fucking Amish would have shot that motherfucker.
Got a face only mother can love.
That's crazy.
I want to put this out there that it's the first of the year. It's a holiday for most people, and most people think that me and Jake don't work, but we're in here busting our ass.
Definitely busty ass here in the room, sitting in the chair and talking into the dick here.
We talk about we have this microphone thing, and it's like you have to tell people. I don't know what to say with most. I know Zach here I've read his book and I know where he's been in life, so I got to put that in your face like it's a dick, and
Good
you don't
Lord.
tell most people that.
What if he was a lady?
Well, you don't want to go with that first. You got to feel the lady. No,
Doesn't it apply more though?
Well, it does.
Depends on the girl.
Yeah, it does depend on the girl, and you also want to, you qualify the buyer, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, I told my wife, like, you doing a podcast on the first? And I was like, yeah, dude, work never stops.
Oh, that's right.
That's what I said when they pulled in. I was like, whose idea was to do this on the first of the year?
To be honest with you, when we did it, it didn't even cross my mind that it was the first.
Mine either.
Yeah.
It was my idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it, and whatever.
I kind of enjoy these days where you don't have because the shop is closed today, obviously. We don't have the full work day to look to, forward to. It's just like come in, do a couple podcasts, record a little bit, and then you go home. So that's, it's not bad.
No pressure.
I'd rather have something to do than nothing to do.
Jake could be sitting on the couch watching a movie if he wasn't here.
Oh, dude, actually, we're all into this. We're going to do a podcast on it soon, but we're all into this beginner, amateur prepping shit at the moment.
Oh,
so we have shit to do at home.
I'm neck deep.
No shit?
Yeah.
Well, then we have shit to talk about then.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission.
He talked about prepping when we were sitting over there the other day. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then we can make this just all about, not all about. We can talk about some prepping
talk
shit.
about the book. We'll just talk about.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Getting some cows. And
Well, I guess so for the prepping thing, like we started off, I got stuck reading a lot of conspiracy theories and whatnot. This happened to me before I started all this shit. So we're talking 7 to 10 years ago, somewhere in there. And I flew a lot too for my job. So I had a lot of time that's back when I did read. And, you go down all these little rabbit holes and you can think about whatever you want about each individual conspiracy theory or flat earth or EMP or fucking lizard people that eat kids or Epstein Island or whatever the fuck you want to think about. But basically it comes down to, what you can take care of at home and the kind of this transitionary period that you got to prepare for. And that's kind of where I ended up is I stopped reading about bullshit and just decided that all we can do is prepare for the worst in our own way within our domicile, kind of situation.
well, that's the thing for me is like as a man with a family, like what if? Okay, so nothing happened. What are you out?
Yep.
Nothing. But what if you couldn't provide for your family?
Yep.
Like, and that's to me. Like, did you have chickens when you started that?
I didn't. And if I was in the residential situation I probably would have.
Okay. Yeah. Like, have you heard about chickens being the gateway drug to conspiracy theories?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. See,
he's
going to put new shit in my head. I thought I was good to go.
So you get some chickens and then you start wondering why the eggs taste so good. And then you research like what they do to the eggs.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what do they do to the meat? And what do they do to the vegetables? And it spirals out of control. And pretty soon you're like me, where you're getting cows and you've got horses, and you've got vehicles without any computers in them, and you know, you got generators and all that stuff.
Yeah. You're already past like if we were to do this amateur, you know, beginner type of thing, you're obviously well past that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're prepared for about, you know, 6 months of hunkering down with no power. That doesn't include what's in the freezer.
Yeah.
As far as food goes, and I think roughly 2 to 3 months of sustained combat. So if my house catches on fire, leave the county.
I hear that.
If that starts cooking off, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I hear that. I listened to the book, or I don't know if I listened or read, but 1 second after.
Yeah.
And they talk about, you know, like EMP went off. And I told him, it talks about planes flying out of the air because they're not hardened, and talks about no vehicle runs just up to like 1979, or, you know, lasted the carburetor and no computers. And the thing you don't think about is, like, if somebody's on meds for whatever, this was diabetes, that has to be refrigerated, and they're on the clock, and they're killing people. They're killing their neighbors to get fucking diabetes medicine for their kid.
Yeah.
It's just a shit. Like, they say it's 3 days to anarchy. It's 3 days where their shit falls off the rails and people start shooting people and killing people.
I had a bunch of friends like in Cody that are like, oh, that won't hit us here. And no, it's exactly the same. In Cody, there's fewer people.
Yes.
But the people who come out the other end of that, they're going to be like the people who are going in and full on anarchy, killing people for their food and stuff like that. They're going to be some serious people to deal with.
Yeah, they're going to be either hardened. They're going to be hardened good guys, or they're just going to be the criminals. That don't care. It's one or the other.
And to make it, you have to tribe up almost. You have to have a tribe. You have to have a plan, or you're just going to get ran over.
Yeah.
So what happened to me is I went and watched that movie Homestead. I did a little bit of reading, and then I go and I watch the movie. Now beforehand, I find I like to watch things like that, or look at like the de-escalation in Venezuela, or like what happened first. What killed people first? What caused people to kill people first? And like in Venezuela, a big thing was sanitation. People don't know how to take a shit cleanly without toilet paper in a toilet, basically. So that's things to consider. Like you start putting shit in your mouth and shit goes everywhere, and all of a sudden, you know, there's shit everywhere.
And
people are dying. Yeah, and people are literally dying.
Dysentery, all kinds of shit.
But like in this movie, Homestead, the first couple things are obviously food and water. Food, water first, food second. And people just get hungry, and that's kind of what a zombie is to me. Is when people get really, really hungry, what are they going to do to eat? And those are the people that'll come rummaging through homes. They don't care if they're going to get shot. They're literally that hungry that you're trying to just survive.
Yep.
Those are zombies.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like talking about being a father. It's when your kids can't eat, and that hits you hard as a man, and you do a lot of things to get those kids food.
Yes.
Well, and you think about it, like around here, you could go whack one of your neighbor's cows.
Yes.
You know, but how long does that last? Like,
and most people take the average person that has never touched a dead animal, let alone dress out an animal, understand what they can and can't eat. Well, you can eat everything, but understand, you know, where not to get gut juice on and things like that. Like, you literally don't know how to break down an animal, or they're fucking trying to puke in the corner because they see blood or something like that. Like, people just don't know how to break down a cow or an elk or a deer.
Now, one of those Venezuelans what a giraffe tastes like. You know, and lions and stuff.
We just ate giraffe. I just ate
giraffe,
Did you?
And it was delicious.
Giraffe tenderloin.
It's under its back leg is the best part, they said. And we ate.
They made us like kebabs, and we ate it that night or the next day. Oh, it was fucking delicious. Nice. Delicious.
It is.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Who'd have thunked? Well, we should probably get on to actual guest and the matter at hand.
Oh, fuck. We could sit here and talk for...
We have a part 2.
6 hours about the
prepping thing. After you told me yesterday we want to do a prepping one, I went home and already started on my notes list.
What I wanted to do is so we just started talking about it, but like from the amateur beginner perspective, like it goes back to writing a book like we talked about, or starting a business. Like, where do I start? What, make it not scary.
Right.
And just work your way through from the most important thing, like water, and then work your way through to the funniest things. Like, I have these little squeeze bottles with a little 90-degree up here to use as a portable bidet. Right? I'm not even lying, dude. I have shit in a tote in the fucking shed, and so you can squirt the main shit off before you use whatever it is that you're going to use. But just ask yourself a simple question, because this happened during COVID. We know it happened here. What are you going to do without toilet paper? That's a great question. Yeah. And then research your area. Like for us, we have 2 passes. We have a pass on the Idaho side and the Idaho-Montana border, basically, and a pass in Washington, where there's only so much food available between those 2 passes when the truck lines break down. Right. So if the trucks stop moving, everybody's fucked.
You don't need an EMP if the trucks stop.
Yes, just the trucks, right? So no matter what happens to make that happen, or people take over that pass and don't let shit through, or whatever's going to happen, there's like 5 days of food.
Yep.
At most. For fucking everybody.
It's usually about 48 hours of food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing things right at home, and again, you got to imagine that the power's going to go out, so your freezers ain't going to work, and if it's not winter, all that shit's done. Yep. You know, and you could have some skills, like you could turn it into jerky real quick, right? Like, and that would be anyways.
Meat canning.
Yes.
That's kind of the one that I'm on right now. But
really?
Like, you going to your point, like what I did to get started was like mountain houses or MREs, something like that, like shelf stable food. But like you said, water. Well, I started with just iodine tablets because it's easy. Like, that's safe. But you probably ought to have, like, the further you went in, you're like, well, I need a filter and I need iodine tablets. So you get so you've got a contingency. Like, you've got your main plan, then you've got a contingency. And then same with food. Like, got a main plan, got a contingency. And because what people don't understand is if you just stock up on rice and beans, your guts are going to be so tied up the first week that you're not going to be able to function.
No.
Like, because it's such a massive change in your diet. So you can't just, you can't buy 5 pounds of beans and rice and think that you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. People undervalue water.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around water.
Everything.
There's a nice big, it costs about $400, but basically it's a tabletop filter deal. It's about yay big. You set it on top of your counter, and inside it are 4 giant charcoal / other shit canisters. And I want to say it's good for something like 100,000 gallons of water. And it holds 2.5 gallons up top, and then it trickles through. It's a gravity-fed filter so that the clean water is at the bottom. So that's really easy to do. You can go on Amazon. I think they're $3.79. And it's this chrome-looking deal. And if you have that, you have 100,000 gallons of ready-to-drink water. Like, if you have a water source anywhere near you, get some disposable totes, and you're dumping it in the top, and then it percolates. It takes some time.
Yeah.
So if you have a larger family, you might need 2 of them just because of the filter time. But that's a really good solution, just like all the stuff that you said. But you gotta, I guess,
one thing I always kind of wondered about was, like, back in the mountain men, like Native American days, that you could drink out of any stream, river. Like, I get that I'm not going to drink out of the Spokane River downtown.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're up in the mountains, like, we've been conditioned to not drink any of that water. I drink that water all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't when I'm around Yellowstone, because there's hot springs and bacteria that can live in that water. But like, if you're looking at a mountain, that's like,
you're almost at the top of the mountain, and there's water coming out of the side of the mountain, and that's the start of the water.
1,000-foot filter.
You're probably okay.
Yeah. But and I just kind of wonder, like, if you were to go test it, how much of that water would actually be bad, even down here.
Yeah.
Right. And it has to be a certain level, like parts per million, to get you infected of that bacteria. A lot of your stomach acid eats it up.
Yeah.
And I've had beaver fever, and I don't want it, especially in an emergency survival situation.
Beaver fever.
I've had it too.
That can be taken all kinds of ways.
Well, that's what it's called, Giardia.
Yeah.
It's the same beaver fever as the nickname.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it builds some immunity too.
It does build immunity once you have it, but it's like, because people would be downriver of a beaver dam, and they'd take a drink, and they call it beaver fever.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it's like, have you ever, like,
screaming memes?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you could, what do they say? You could shit through a screen door and not touch a wire.
I think too, so being hunters in the start, like, we have all this, like I was talking about, we have all this gear at home. So if you go through a prepper list and go bags and things like that, like, a lot of the shit that people have to buy for prepping, we already own it. We own all the clothing to deal with shit. We own, tents and stoves and all this. And we have experience with water filtration. Like, so being a hunter or a backpacker already gives you this leg up and on some of the gear that you need to have at home. And I think it makes that transition into being ready for a transition period. You know, it makes it easier.
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't remember what movie or book it was in, but it's like he's talking about being a hunter, and he's like, being a hunter makes it real easy to go clap that neighbor you got to shoot in a survival situation.
Just pretend like you're looking at a deer and get it done.
He's like, I've been hunting a long time. I got it. And he walks out. I don't remember what it is. He's like, bang, bang. He's like, we got him.
Oh, do you remember that movie that I told you about? This movie the other day. It was called, I think it's called Hunter x Hunter. And it's it's in Alaska. And long story short, it's this couple that lives out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, and they're self-supporting, and he traps. You know, that's how they're making a living and whatnot, and they're not doing very good. Long story short, there's this serial killer in the area, and the man ends up dying when he was out on the trap line, not related to the situation. And the serial killer ends up making it to the house, and I believe he kills the daughter. So the mom drags him out into the skinning shed and literally skins that motherfucker like the most realistic shit you've seen in a while. And she has, and the serial killer would put on his headphones when he was killing girls or doing whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
So she puts on the same headphones and she's listening to the shit while she's skinning this dude out. And then all the police were coming in because they just discovered the site where he had all the bodies. I told you didn't go watch this movie.
I don't remember you telling me this.
So all the fucking, all the police just discovered the serial killer's like burial grounds. And this house is real close, and they could see the smoke from she was burning a bunch of shit that was his. Anyways, she literally skins this motherfucker out and comes out of the skinning shed right as all the cops are kind of coming into the house, and she's covered in blood, and she's just like shaking, and she has the fucking headphones on, so all you hear is that music, and all the cops go, oh man, it was fucking intense. But skinning it, so anyways, that goes back to killing the neighbor, like she just straight up skinned this motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, if you killed my kid, you know, you're going to die slow.
Yeah.
But
real slow.
He's awake while she's like getting like these pieces.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. Getting the muscle, getting those tendon and nerves.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Well, I guess, okay. Now we should probably get to what the topic of the day is.
Yes.
We have Zach Bowman. Zach Bowman, he wrote a book called Mountain Drifter. It's hunting camp adventures from the Wyoming Thorofare. When I got into mules about a year and a half ago, and we asked our people that listen, our great listeners out there, to get a hold of us about mules and horses, and had been with them in the mountains and could give me more advice because I'm a super novice and don't know what I'm doing. And somehow, Zach, somebody reached out to you and said, hey, you should get a hold of us. Is that how that went down?
Shout out to my buddy TJ Lockwood down in Medford, Oregon. He called me and was like, he's like, are you familiar with Shoot to Hunt?
Nice.
Like, yeah. He's like, you better listen to that podcast. You should go on it.
Hell yeah. The system works.
It did work.
Did you already read that book before?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, this is the problem with like some great books, great videos, great movies, great anything, is it's hard to get the word out.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as Zach either emailed us or he called me, anyways, he said he had the book, and I said, well, shit, I want to at least read the book and be somewhat informed before we have him on. So I ordered it. And then I reached out and said, tried to hook this up.
Yeah, I emailed and said I'm willing to send you guys a copy to read, and you bought it anyway.
Nice.
So,
well, I don't feel like if it sucked, maybe we wouldn't have had you on.
Then you wouldn't be committed.
I'm going to take it from now and I'm going to read it.
Oh, it's good. It's good. And the thing is funny is I can't say I'm a like super staunch reader, but I try to read a book every month and a half. And I told Zach, I was like, oh, I'll read it this week and I'll get back to you. And it's way more in depth than I thought it would be. And, you know, because I've read a lot of mountain band books, and half the time you get about a quarter in and you're like, fuck, this book sucks. I'm not going to keep going. This book was super engaging. And it does, I will say, if you're a hunter, I just got into mules. But what I like about your book is it talked a lot about bears, which everybody seems to be running into now. If you hunt anywhere in Wyoming, Montana, or northern Idaho, you run into more grizzly bears. And we're talking about G bears, not black bears. And the other part is you didn't tell the traditional hunting story, which I appreciate. You told kind of a high level of the hunt quickly, and then you moved into new chapters, and it kept you super engaged. Was that going into it? Was that the thing?
There's too many, books that are a measuring contest, in my opinion. And like everybody talks about, that hunt where they passed a 330 bull and killed a 335 on the last day with their handicapped son or whatever, or their dad that they've been estranged with forever. Like it's played out. It's cliche. And for me, the book was like, there's so many guys that are better than me at guiding, hunting, everything. Like everybody knows what that's like who's been on a hunt. Like what you don't know is you don't know about the cook breaking her leg, or, being 30 miles in the wilderness by yourself with a pack string of 8 mules with bloody elk quarters getting chased by grizzly bears. Like that's what you don't know. Like even if you've been in those camps, you don't know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, how about a little bit of your background? Like how long did you guide? Where did you guide? All that good stuff.
I was actually born in Ohio, raised in northeastern Oregon in Pendleton. And I got involved in rodeo, which progressed into pro rodeo. You get fined up in pro rodeo if you don't pay your entry fees, things like that. So surprise, I was fined up like $4,000 one year and found out about a rodeo. They had a rodeo every night of the week for 3 months in Cody. And that wasn't a pro rodeo. Like I couldn't compete in pro rodeos when you're fined up. So I headed over to Cody so I didn't have to get a job, and was just hanging out rodeoing. And one of the pickup men, the guy that gets guys off of bucking horses, one day he's like, "Hey, you're from Oregon, right?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Did you elk hunt?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I got a hunting camp. You want to come to work?" I was like, "Sure." And that's how it started.
Huh.
So on that's actually where I was going to start it out at is being that I just got into packing, horse packing, mule packing. You got into a little bit, but how was that first time not knowing any of the knots, not knowing shit all about packing? You kind of touched on it, and your particular outfitter wanted a certain knot.
Yeah.
And you guys tied it one way and he wanted some other kind of knot. How did that go the first, like, my thing is I had to retie all my shit like 10 fucking times. You had people with you that knew what they were doing, but how was that first time never packing an animal? You've rode horses before, so that wasn't new to you, but packing was.
Yeah.
How was that first in and out?
It was fine with them, other than just kind of being, what it's like when you're the new guy, you're kind of embarrassed. You're trying to be helpful. So but you're mainly just getting in the way.
And they're probably fucking with you a little bit too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just run like the majority of those hitches when you're packing 30 head in the morning, like you're not going to throw a double diamond. Like it takes 2 men and it's an intricate pack knot, that everybody likes to use. If you're packing 30 head, you just throw a box hitch on it. That'll cover 90% of your loads. This is just a box hitch. And one guy can do it, and you can do it in a couple minutes, and you're just half hitching each side. So you pull the lash rope around, pull it tight, throw a half hitch around the load, pull it tight, walk over to the other side, throw a half hitch, pull it tight, tie it off. Off you go. So, and it took a little bit, that was the basic hitch, and that, you kind of get that down. Really what it comes, like if you have 30 pounds, that's this big, and 30 pounds that big, like even though it weighs the same, it's not going to ride properly. So your load, it really, to me, it comes down to, yes, it needs to be even weight, but it needs to be kind of uniform, like
volume.
Yeah. Yeah. Volume does matter. Cause like if you get 30 pounds, out on a lever arm, and the other side's real close, like a salt block and a bale of hay. Like that's never going to ride proper, just because the salt block's going to be way down and the hay bale's way up, and
So when you threw those first hitches on, and I like the part where the guy said, "Do you know how to pack?" And you're like, "Yep, I've done this before." and you say there, "I've never done it before."
Bluff your way. Yeah.
So there's kind of fake it till you make it kind of ordeal.
Exactly.
So when you're like first riding in there, the first time you've been in there, what was your like? I mean, you've hunted before in Oregon, but the Thorofare's nothing like Oregon.
Nothing. Like Oregon's like a brush hunt, green timber, walking, doing drives, stuff like that. And now we're going up to and I had ridden horses too, but most of my horse riding was like arena type flatland stuff. Now we're literally riding up the sides of cliffs. So it took a long time to start trusting horses. And, but yeah, I mean, it was just, like everything's new. It's coming so fast. It's almost like tunnel vision. You just, get through it. Try not to be an idiot. Try not to kill yourself or a horse.
When you first took on, signed up for that, did you think that it'd be, what'd you say, 15 years of doing it?
No. But like, I remember being a kid, we'd get Bugle magazines, and like the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of hunting for me was elk hunting, like deep wilderness horseback wall tents with wood stoves in them. Like that's what I always envisioned was the pinnacle. And then all of a sudden I get this opportunity to go
Do
in. And the guy hired me as a camp jack, and that's the dude that fetches water and starts fires and stuff like that. And then a guy didn't show up, and I was guiding like the first week.
And you say in the book that that's pretty like normal. So you went in as camp jack, and just to be layman's term, it's like the camp bitch.
Yeah.
And you do all the menial tasks that have to be done. You're not the wrangler, but you're like everything that needs to be done. But you also are kind of a wrangler and kind of a guide. It's kind of a jack of all trades, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like you still are not really taking orders, but like everybody in camp can tell you what to do. Like you're going to help the wrangler saddle in the morning. You're going to help the wrangler wrangle horses in from the meadow. But the cook's going to tell you to get food out of the cache, and she needs water. So you're hauling water, and you're doing everything. A guide rolls into camp and he's like, "Hey, I need help packing meat out." So you saddle a mule and off you go to help pack meat out. But that's the best way to start, because you get a little bit of everything. And then usually you move on to a wrangler, and you're in charge of horses, and then eventually you move on to be a guide. I didn't have any of that. Like the second animal I guided, I think was a sheep.
And that was the first year you were in there.
Yeah.
And you went in as the camp jack.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So like moving into like when you're guiding hunters, is there a guy comes into camp, and I don't want to tell everything about the book. People need to buy the book. It's great. But you talk about physical ability, and you talk about people kind of like judging a book by its cover when it gets in there. And you talk about lots of different types and style of backgrounds of hunters.
Yeah.
Can you kind of go in just like the high level view of the hunters you see in there?
Well, it was weird. Like the first camp I was in was only like a 4-mile ride. It wasn't technically a thoroughfare camp, or 4 hour, about 6 miles. It was at 10,000 feet. We were the FNAWS Outfitter of the Year. I didn't know any of this because I didn't even know what FNAWS was when I went in there. But
what is it?
Foundation for North American Wild Sheep.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that means sometimes you killed a lot of sheep, or like you killed a lot of good sheep.
Yeah. And that outfitter did. Was the premier sheep hunter in that day. We got in that camp that was higher end clientele, a lot of guys that expected it to be a lot easier. Like I spent that first year, I packed a lot of guns for fat guys. And then when I moved into the thoroughfare, and one of the reasons I didn't leave the thoroughfare is the thoroughfare was a total blue collar hunt. Like a lot of those guys had saved for years to come in there, and like, on the front side, that first camp, those rich guys would be giving their meat away before they even showed up, before they'd even seen an animal. Like, hey, do you want some of this sheep meat? Like, dude, you haven't even made it up in the rocks yet. In the thoroughfare, like, they're like, no, that's my meat. Like, they didn't like Indian quartering. Like, if they hadn't seen it before, they're like, you're leaving too much meat. Like, well, where's the meat? You want me to do a rib roll?
I'm gonna keep asking you, what is Indian quartering?
Gutless method.
Gutless method. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We called it Indian quartering.
Yeah. But if you do it right, that doesn't leave meat.
No.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely not. We just shot a cow last week, and we didn't get it. And the coyotes are going to be pissed. We took it all off there. He also has another term on the packing side called poacher packing.
Oh yeah.
Describe to the listener what poacher packing is. I thought that was an interesting term.
It's like packing your meat on your riding saddles. And the easiest way is like, what I would do is with 2 hindquarters, I leave the hide on. I just cut them right at the ball joints, skin them in camp, to keep it clean. So you don't have to pack game bags, crap like that. But you poke a hole right there in their Achilles tendon, and I would just run my hobbles for my horses through there to hold them. And you got like a good foot of slack in the hobble.
And you have like a rear drape, a rear quarter drape over the top there.
And we pick both quarters up, and you flop one over the far side of the horse, and you'd tuck your hobbles behind the cantle of your saddle. That'd be the seat.
Yep.
And then I'd run 2 lengths of rope. I had 50-foot lengths of rope, but that was mainly for antlers. You could do it with half of that. But I'd tie that off on my saddle horn, drape it down, and then you cock that quarter up at a 45-degree angle, kind of right over your fenders where your stirrups are.
Yeah.
And run your rope down from the saddle horn down. I'd carry a carabiner to put in my D-ring on my cinch. And then I could run my rope right through my carabiner, suck it tight, and then basically throw a half hitch on it back up to the saddle horn round. You just make a rat's nest there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it rides really good. And then I carried saddle panniers for the front quarters, tenderloins, and backstraps. And those saddle panniers just flop over a saddle. There's a cutout for the cantle and the saddle horn, a couple straps.
There's a picture of it in his book. It's pretty sweet.
But that works really good. And when we really got into that, when the bears got bad, like I started noticing that every real serious bear encounter I was having with a bear was when I was returning to a carcass. So and you're riding into a carcass with some dude from New York who's never been in the mountains before and doesn't have a sidearm and never been around a bear or a horse, or this is a bad situation.
Yeah.
So now, I don't care how fat they were, we're walking out. I don't care if it takes 2 days. We're not coming back to this carcass.
At least if you got to take off running, it ain't going to be you in the back.
Yeah.
You don't got to shoot him in the leg. He's already shot himself in the leg.
The problem is, as a guide, you got to jump between them and
try to save them.
Yeah.
Why is it outfitters? I read this a lot. I've only been on really no horseback guided things, but I read it a lot where you guys want the bone in on the bone. You don't want it bone totally out in the game bags. Is there a reason for that?
It makes it easier to pack.
Just more rigid.
Yeah.
Something to tie to, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard that. I've heard that before too.
Just not a big blob of shit.
Yeah.
That's in the pack.
Well, you know what that big, how terrible it is. I watched my brother backpack an elk out that he deboned and on a meat board.
Yeah.
And he just stuck the bag on the little chair thing. It's all the weights, your shoulder
lever.
straps trying to pull you over.
I think it depends on how you're going to carry the meat. For example, if we had goats or llamas, you want it boned out just because that
weight.
Weight. For the weight, and then it's almost easier if it's all boned out to put 50 pounds in each saddlebag, and it kind of sits the same way.
Yeah,
break it down.
You did all that work on that horse to make those 2 rear quarters sit the same way so that it rode well.
Yeah,
it would. In the others, in other scenarios, it'd be easier to bone it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a rule, man. If I'm packing on my back and it's more than a mile, it's just getting boned out. It's just simpler.
Yeah.
Way more better.
One of the most important parts that, if somebody's going to pack poacher pack, is when I was talking about leaving the hide on those hindquarters, it's hide on, bone out.
Hide on, bone out. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that way, when you run your half hitch around that rear quarter, you can grab that ball of the femur with your rope.
No shit.
You can half hitch that.
Is there a technical term for that hitch? Poacher packing hitch, or just a sling?
There probably is. I mean, in the horse world, somebody's probably screaming right now at me, but
is that something you developed or somebody taught you?
Kind of you would see it. That's one of the things that's interesting is you spend all those years guiding, and how many times do you ever go out with another guide?
Yeah.
It's almost never.
It's just you.
Yeah. So,
or maybe a new guide or a new a hand comes into camp and has some, experience from somewhere else.
So I'm not going to ever claim that I invented anything. You'd see guys come in and be like, oh, that's cool. How'd you do that? And you kind of help them unpack it. And then, but you kind of come up with your own iteration of it.
So all these years of guiding, and you just kind of were thrown into it. What's the tip? I mean, obviously in the thoroughfare, I'm sure is still a game-rich environment for the most part. Do you have any tips for elk hunters, just in general, to get on and find elk in the wilderness areas?
Enhance your shooting experience with STOCKY'S stocks. Are you tired of struggling with mediocre rifle stocks that hinder your performance? Imagine having a high-quality rifle stock that not only enhances your accuracy, but also provides superior strength in a lightweight build. STOCKY'S stocks offers a wide range of premium rifle stocks manufactured with hand layup carbon fiber construction, a patented carbon fiber AccuBlock, and multiple finish options. Whether you're a long-range shooter or a hunting enthusiast, our stocks are perfect for you. Experience unmatched precision and durability with STOCKY'S stocks. We provide stock installation instructions, technical support, and guidance to help you choose the right stock for your rifle. Upgrade your shooting game today with STOCKY'S stocks.
Physical ability is huge. And
yeah, it's kind of where you didn't go describing the hunters that you've experienced. I mean, the biggest, you hear it often from outfitters is the shape, how in shape your hunter is has the most impact on how successful they are.
I think that that's exactly true. Like you can't simulate 10,000 feet if you're from sea level, but you can be in shape. And just recently, like, and especially like after reading like Lone Survivor and reading about guys going through the Q course, it makes perfect sense to me now. Like stepping over, you know how stepping over logs going through blowdown just wears you out. It's, if you're going to concentrate on anything, it'd be core muscles. You know, especially riding 30 miles. Like you need you need to be in shape with your core.
Yeah, there's horse shape and then there's hiking shape, and the two things are not the same.
They're not the same. Yeah.
And I was listening, Cliff Gray. You listen to Cliff Gray at all? He was an outfitter in the Flat Tops in Colorado.
Okay.
And he said, it's not people think that they're going to ride in and they're going to jump off fresh. He's like, if I rode in 10 miles, I would say that it was similar to me backpacking 3. Yeah. He said, there is a wear down effect on that horse or mule. Yeah. Which I never really correlated to it or thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the more you do anything, the better you get at it. But like 30 miles. Like,
and you can train your core, but there's nothing really that you can simulate at the gym with your legs. Yeah. Straddling fucking 3 feet apart like that, then sitting there for hours at a time. That's just.
I am novice as novice. One thing that I have a problem with is fucking my knees, especially where the rifle is. That side of it. I don't know if there's a trick for that, but damn, that gets fucking so.
You might let a stirrup out an inch or so. I bought these stirrups that they're angled.
Crooked stirrups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went from like a real pressure after 30 miles on the inside of your knee. I don't know if it's your ACL or what. And now it's kind of on the outside. But like it shifts it around. It's a little more comfortable. It's a little more natural feeling when you're on the horse, because like with square stirrups, by the time it comes around the corner, your feet are actually like kind of like that. So that square stirrup kind of lets them ride a little more natural. But that was it wasn't a game changer, but a mild tweak that sure helped.
Helped a lot.
Yeah.
I read the chapter where the guy kind of lost his mind and shot that calf in your book.
Yeah.
How often did you see guys kind of lose their shit and miss? And what was the percentage of miss to hit overall through your career?
Not very often like that. I still get mad at that guy about that. Even though he redeemed himself, like flock shooting elk, like I took his gun from him in the middle of that.
Was he the guy in your video that I watched on TV? Or do you want to bring that up or not?
I think that's a no. Pleading the fifth there.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, but
yeah, there was a big run involved with that. Like I've never trapped elk in my life, and we had elk trapped up around 12,000. They were cliffed out, and it was funny because those mules had been lost we brought in these 2 new mules that didn't know the rest of them, and the wrangler just kicked them out with the herd, and they didn't know any of the herd, and they left, and they were gone for like 2 weeks. So one day I'm glassing up the head of the river, and I'm like, well, there's Butch and Cassidy up there living with the elk.
They're just feeding along with them.
They were like touching noses with
That's
them.
what I said,
stuff. And so we went up there. There was a bull in there. So I took the Wrangler with me the next day, and we went up there, and we got them pinned up against those cliffs. And Butch and Cassidy, we got them like they had kind of left the elk a little bit. They're like 200 yards off the side, and that hunter just went nuts. And I ended up taking his gun from him.
You mean you just started opening fire on that stuck herd?
Yeah.
Yeah, in your book, you like you
and I
lined him
saw
out.
he didn't mean to shoot that calf.
Yeah, you like lined him out on a bull,
Yeah.
and then he kind of lost his shit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But that was the only time that had ever happened to me. And you know, like for guides, and I'd tell young guys this when I get new guides, is like you get right up there in their ear, get shoulder to shoulder with them,
Yeah.
your hunter, and talk them through it.
Yeah.
Like, and most of the time they don't need that, but it provides a little bit of noise. You know, it's one thing to shoot off the bench and do your visualization techniques and following through. But when you've got elk bugling and your hands are numb and your rest isn't perfect, like it's a different game.
Yeah.
And if you get right up there next to him and your face is in your binoculars and like, there he is, you see him, you know, and if you hear their breathing change, like most of the time, the ranges we were shooting it wasn't like a jump off and shoot. Like it was a stock. The elk don't know we're here. Let's sit here. Like I'd have them dry fire sometimes, just to kind of knock that buck fever out. And I noticed like I had a couple wounded elk those first couple years, and then we didn't wound one after that. But I'd be right in their ear the whole time.
Yeah, you became a more experienced guide at that point.
Yeah.
What was like your average shot distance over the course of
Probably
your time?
between 200 and 300.
Okay.
So,
You know, a lot of those times too, you mentioned like the blue collar worker that saves most of his life to get into that hunt. And it's like there had been years leading up for that one dude, right? And then you're out there year after year for days and days and weeks. But that one dude had been saving up for 10 years, finally gets out there, finally got in there 30 miles on the horse. He's not sore anymore. All of a sudden there's a bull there. And, you know, things go kind of dark, things go kind of quiet. And your head takes you places you don't want to go. And it's all like the culmination of all this shit into one fucking. And then that's what we talked to guys about training with the rifle, having the right rifle, making sure your fucking scope didn't lose zero, because all that effort went into that one fucking moment.
Yeah. Then you just have that moment. And, you know, if those guys, they did shoot and miss, like if they were good dudes, like it happens. You know, we'll keep trying, you know?
Yeah.
If you're a giant asswipe,
like, hey, you
might
had your
not
shot.
see very many elk.
Yeah.
And the rule is if you wound something, don't find it, you're done.
Yeah.
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 And
I mean, I've been in camps where sometimes the outfitter, like, you know, be like, take him out. Like, well, okay, I'll take him out, but we're not going to see shit.
we're going to do a lot of walking, not a lot of seeing.
Going up the hill. Yeah. But I mean, that was mainly my personal ethics was like, if there was, obviously there's room for extenuating circumstances. Like you're not just going to be a jerk to a guy, but a wounded elk back there is a dead elk. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Through those 15 years, did you see much change in gear? Like what was the most popular rifle and scope to come through there caliber wise, cartridge wise?
By far 300, just whatever.
300 Win, 300
Ultra,
Weatherby, 300 Ultra.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's my favorite gun to guide behind at those ranges. Like they just hit with enough wall up that, you know, like 7mm is a great gun, but
were suppressors very popular during that time?
No,
not at all.
No, not at all.
Muzzle brakes.
I remember when muzzle brakes came out. Well, they didn't. Like I don't remember when they came out. But I remember my first muzzle brake.
Yeah,
and. You know, you get up there shoulder to shoulder with the guy.
Oh, yeah, that's the wrong spot to be.
Yeah. Then you're like, okay, well, that guy has a guide killer is what we called him. Like, I'm going to be behind him.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But yeah, the 300s did the best in my opinion. Like, I had one guy show up with a 30-06. I hung with a 30-06. I was like pissed. Like,
that he had a 30-06?
Yeah, we're shooting 300 yards. You bring your little 30-06 with your 4-power Weaver.
Dude, I'm gonna show up with a 6mm.
Yeah. It's different nowadays.
In the wallop thing, we have a whole thing about wallop and bullet construction. And if you listen to some of our podcasts, you're gonna almost wish you didn't say wallop on this podcast.
What are there any so specifically 30 cals for sure, but are there any bullets that stand out in your mind, like a bullet that never failed?
No. I'm not versed enough to really have an in-depth conversation on the bullets. Like I'd hear like a lot of guys would be talking about Barnes and Nosler when we were in there.
Yeah, Acubon.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys sight rifles in when you got in there, or they were just? Did you ever have rifles that were fucking way off? I imagine you did.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things on that calf deal that I've wondered. The guy called me after that. I should wrap that up so we don't think that we're throwing this guy totally under the bus, but
he redeemed himself in your book. Totally.
Yeah. So he calls me and he's like, dude, that was my dad's gun. Like I found out my barrel's shot out and my scope was off. And I'm like, all right, yeah. You know, he comes back 2 years later. We're in a different camp.
Okay.
Well, he came back the next year and I was like, I'm not guiding that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then he came back the third year and I went out with him and another dude and called this is the only time in my life I've called a big bull off of a herd. And we just like we hit the cow call like as many times as you think is too many. We probably hit it 4 times more than that. And we pull this just thug of a bull. His picture's in the book on that little spotted mule. But this bull comes running in from like 800 yards at a dead run. And he pulls up in the meadow at like 168 yards and the dude whacks him. And I don't see anything. I'm like, dude, you missed. And so he racks another one, boom, shoots him between the eyes. 168 yards off of a knee.
Huh.
So yeah, he totally redeemed him.
Did he miss the first time?
No, he's like that elk. That was a dead elk.
It was dead right there.
Perfect
shot already.
Yeah, vital shot.
You know what's crazy is that those guys spend all that time saving the money and all that time to get that. They bring some shit ass somebody else's gun with a busted scope that's loose and a barrel that's shot out. Like you never went to the fucking range before you rode out 30 miles to kill your lifetime, bull of a lifetime dream elk.
And like in his defense, like in those days, that was before like Best of the West was in its infancy. Gunworks wasn't even an idea yet.
Yeah.
This was like before the long range shooting craze. Like everybody had their dad's or their grandpa's gun, and like I didn't even own a rangefinder. Like he's 200 yards, shoot him.
Yeah.
Like he could have been 350.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also why you like 30 cows.
Yeah.
Fast and flat situation, and wherever you hit them, it might be off a little bit, but we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. I hear you guys talk about it. Like I've been trying to catch up on your podcasts, and you guys are just light years in front of me on. Like I used to know the ballistics of like a 300, because you'd hear your hunters talk about them, and so you knew.
Nowadays, like what's in front of you right here is a 6 Creed that weighs about 7 pounds. And if it had the right bullet in it, you can take this and you can kill
my wife
about as far as you can shoot. I mean, I'm like 1,000 yards with a 108 LDM or a 115 DTAC. And there is data and personal experience that backs all that up, and being able to spot your impacts, low recoil, all that good shit.
How would that gun work at like, let's say you're used to shooting 800 yards and a bull runs out at like 50.
Well, just 5 days ago, 6 Creedmoor, danger close from me, 20 yards. He shot it in the shoulder and it went 10 feet. And it exited. It was a little metal bullet we were trying, little mono bullet, copper bullet. No issues. My wife shot multiple elk. My friend's daughters have shot multiple elk from 800 to me to you.
See,
but imagine back in the day, though, dude rolls in with a fucking 6 Creedmoor and he pulls out this little round of ammo.
Basically, he's rolling in with a 243 because that's what
it is. A 243, yeah.
And he's saying, "I'm going elk hunting," and you guys be like, "You motherfucker! You rode 30 miles with a 243." But they are like what it is bullet construction and put it on target. Low recoil, mostly suppressed now, and they are just little killers.
Yeah, that guy that I was saying, it made me mad when he showed up with his 30-06, this little Hawaiian guy that had never been elk hunting before, never had done anything.
Yeah.
And the story's in the book, but we end up whacking this. I think he was like a 7x8. He's all knifed out. His cool bull. He's going backwards, actually. He's probably only like a 320 bull, but it was just like palmated like a moose almost, like just like rounded off tines. And like I'm like, there he is. It's getting dark. Shoot. And he's up teetering on a log. And boom, he shoots this bull, and then it's all like, haha, you showed up with that gun, and I thought this was gonna suck, and we're talking about it, and he like pulls his shirt up, and he's a Vietnam vet, and he'd been hit like 3 times in the chest, like showed me his bullet wounds. He's like, I hadn't hunted elk before, but I've hunted other stuff. Like, touche.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Like on that, like getting into the thoroughfare, I didn't understand until I read into your book the pure remoteness. Like in the middle, you're 30 miles from either side.
Most remote place in the lower 48 states. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Did you guys, you've talked about, you had several emergencies in there where you had to bring in a helicopter. And the funny part is I was skimming it this morning for highlights, and I had highlighted a few things in there. And the onset of satellite communication and the old school guys giving you a bunch of shit about having an inReach or a sat phone.
Oh, yeah. But texting came to the thoroughfare.
Yeah. And they totally shit on you till they needed it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. And talk about the guy, we just briefly, I want people to buy your book, but the guy riding in with the problem.
With the prostate?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like that guy had all kinds of issues, but him and his buddy show up, and his buddy's this huge guy. And we start riding into camp. Usually so all the employees will show up at the trailhead, start catching, saddling mules. Hunters roll in. And usually the outfitter will get them in their saddles and get them going, because they stop and screw around, got to get their coat on, take their coat off, and eat a sandwich in the meadow. And so they take off, and we load mules, and I'm leading the strings. So I'm the first string of like 5 strings going in.
How many's in a string? How many head of horses?
6 to 8.
Okay.
And all of a sudden I run into my boss coming at me, and he's leading this huge guy. This guy's like 6'5", probably 300 pounds, big fat guy. And like he'd shit his pants, like it's running out his leg. My boss has got him like tied on, and he's in and out of consciousness. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know. And I said, well, it looks like altitude sickness to me. And the boss is like, well, I'm going out. Pick up the hunters, and they'll follow your string, put them between your string and the next string. Okay. So we roll in, and pretty soon I run into the hunters, and I'm like, hey guys, we've got a pack string. Like, so if you kind of need to pee, hold it. Like if you really have to pee, we'll stop.
Oh. If you start stopping mill around, those mules get all tangled up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they start screwing around.
It's like the goats or anything else. When they're running good, you fucking walk.
You keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get them up to the meadow, which is like halfway to the pass, and this guy's trying to pee. Yeah, right away. I could kind of use to piss. Like, well, I'm not stopping for kind of, Bob.
No.
Like,
No.
and so he's standing there like Butters on South Park with his pants down around his ankles, like,
oh my God,
leaned against a tree.
The retard pee.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dude can't pee. And so I go through, check everybody's cinches, and I'm kind of watching this guy, and I'm like, well, get on your horse. Like, we can't just stand in the meadow all day with your pants around your ankles.
Yeah.
And so we get to we end up stopping for this guy. It should have been like 10, 12 hour ride in there. Like, we've stretched it into like 16 hours.
Fuck.
My boss rode out with that guy, loaded him in his pickup, drove 42 miles into Cody, dropped him off at the hospital, drove back, jumped on his mule and caught us before we got to camp.
Oh,
Wow.
That's how long this took. So
did he have hypoxia? Is that what it was from?
yeah, that guy did. So he's in the hospital, and this other guy can't pee. And finally, like there's a meadow right before camp. Like it's, I don't know, half a mile out of camp.
Mm.
And this Bob guy, he's like, just leave me. And like, I just had it. I jump off and I cuss him and like, get on your horse. And so I get him loaded.
You had to be pretty agitated by that point
so
to be cussing at him going in. Yeah.
At a hunter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't cuss at hunters.
Yeah.
To their face. But yeah, so I get him into camp and he's going to sit out the next day. And we're like, good, hang out. And he steals, we had a 5-gallon bucket in there that like it's wilderness area. So you're using crosscut saws, and we dump all the sawdust in there and mix some diesel and some white gas for fire starter. And like he took the bucket and dumped it out and brings it into his tent. Turns out he's trying to shit in the bucket instead of just going to the outhouse tent. Like there's all this stuff that happens.
That's weird.
And finally I'm up hunting and like whop, whop, whop. Here comes a helicopter coming down the valley. And I'm like, good, get that son of a bitch out of camp. Well, they stick a catheter in the guy in camp. And I ended up working for this medevac company. So I knew the nurses and stuff. I flew for them. And whatever the human body can hold for urine, like he was double that.
Oof.
So like he was getting ready to die.
Pop that bladder and die.
Yeah. So they haul him out and to the hospital they go. And great. We got rid of those 2 guys. We can have a good hunt. We have a good hunt. We come out. I hit cell phone service, call my wife, who's a nurse at the hospital. And she's like, hey, you better come down here. Like, no, I got horses to unload and stuff. She's like, no, come straight to the hospital. So I walk in and guess who's there? Both those guys.
Your buddy.
Yeah.
They shit the pants and piss the pants.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And they're talking shit about this guy who wouldn't stop on the trail. Like we stopped 100 times.
Yeah.
And he's saying it's my fault.
And your wife, they don't know, obviously.
Yeah,
your wife's there listening to these 2 fuckers.
Yeah.
Said he would not stop for me. I kept saying I had to pee, and he just said, get on your fucking horse.
Yeah. So I'm in the hospital, like shaming him, pointing my finger in his face. Like, you say it out loud. Like, I stopped plenty of times for you.
Yeah.
You did. And I said, and you even said that you forgot to take your prostate medication.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to sit in the saddle and beat the shit out of your prostate for 30 something miles and wonder why you can't pee.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. But so he filed a report with Wyoming
No way.
Outfitters, Guides and Outfitters Association. We had to we had to give our side of the story. It didn't go anywhere, but I have a feeling that every hunt that guy's been on there's something like that.
From an outfitter perspective, man, you don't know what you're going to get.
You don't. Yeah. And you got to vet those guys. If I had one complaint about the outfitters, that sometimes they'll book guys that shouldn't be booked.
Fucking money, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, talking about money, what was the average cost of an elk hunt back then during your time?
I want to say it was $6,800.
Okay.
That's for.
Is that like a 7-day?
It's 8 days. You ride in on day 1, you ride out on day 8. So 6 days in the middle of hunting.
Gotcha.
And that's, horses, wall tent, got to cook. We're eating prime rib, turkey,
How many hunters in camp?
Depends on the camp. The big ones back then, we were running between 10 and 12.
Wow.
What was the success rates? Percentage wise?
Over 80 on dead bulls.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole time. And
did you say dead bulls?
Dead.
Mhm.
Like
As opposed to shot opportunities, which is a buzzword that a lot of. So you maybe were 100% shot opportunity, but 80% would be dead.
Yeah. And we weren't, we were in the 90s though.
Was there any, in your book, there didn't talk about, was there any much mule deer hunting at all at that time?
Little bit. That's one thing I just don't, like, it's embarrassing to say as a guide, but like, I do not understand how to hunt mountain muleys. I don't get it.
It's a whole
That's
nother
why
monster.
the guys that are super successful, like Robbie Denning and like Travis Hobbs, that's about all they do.
Dione.
Dione Moostaggy. There's a lot of good guys out there, but that's all they fucking focus on is mule deer. They're
But
like a cult.
if we get some weather, you'd have a migration, and then that's stupid easy. You know, you just sit there and wait for one that's big enough to walk by, and you blast him. But
In your 15 years there, are there any like situations or does anything stick out in your mind? What sticks out in your mind the most about the whole 15 years, if you think back to it? A specific story or an elk you saw or whatever situation it might be?
mine's really simple. Like I have two, and like the nature of this podcast, probably don't need to go too deep into this, but I remember I was riding a big Clydesdale called Big Jim, and we were on camp pole. So usually it's snowed and everything's frozen and all your loads are jacked and
Camp pull means you're leaving.
yeah, like
Gotcha.
Yeah.
and you can't leave anything in those camps.
Yeah.
Like even your horizontal rails, you got to cut them down and
Wilderness.
yeah. So, and you got 30 mules and you always end up with like, 36 loads and you got to make it work. And so everything's jacked and heavy and tents don't fold right because they're all frozen. But anyway, I remember like I could point to the spot on the trail where I was riding. This is not going to be what you guys expect, but I just like, I forgave myself for every bad thing I'd ever done. Like I got to know myself because you're just riding 30 miles, 12 hours.
Yeah.
This is before iPods.
3 miles an hour.
3 miles an hour. Yep. And it's too cold to like, you can't, there's too many mules between the guy in front of you and the guy behind you. You can't have a conversation. You're just riding, thinking. And like, you can think and dwell on that.
Yeah.
Or like, but I just remember like just being total peace.
A lot of self-reflection on those rides. Interesting.
And in I think hunting in general, especially too, once you hit a certain amount of days. Now, of course, you were out there for so long already, but I think what you're talking about also happens to guys just being in the woods after a few days.
Yeah, it's kind of rhythmic. You're in an awesome scenic spot, and without the weather. It depends on the weather, but it's like, and you get those.
But even then, man, like sometimes like that's mountain man shit. Like you're riding through that snow. It's kind of cold. It's kind of miserable. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you're suffering, just like you're not super suffering. So it's still kind of cool.
And there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nobody to save you. There's no, you can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to do this today.
Yeah. But like being in there, like by myself, I used to ride in. So I'd just grab a packer and a riding horse and just go in by myself and like clearing those 10, 11,000 foot passes. You're up there by yourself, just you and your horses. Like to me, it was always the experience. Like I like to hunt. I like horses, but I love the thoroughfare. I love the remoteness. I love all that other stuff, like the hunting and stuff. That's just a bonus. If you appreciate being back there, I think that's what for me was the biggest thing. But it's hard to sing aloud one hunting story. Like I remember we ran out of meat. It was really hot. Me and the cook were sitting on camp and we had run, all the meat had spoiled and it was still going to be like 5 days or 4 days until another crew came in. And there's those mountain chickens running around the sea, grouse.
Yeah.
And we were almost out of ammo because we'd been running bears out of camp. So we had to use rocks and we killed a bunch of mountain chickens with rocks. And
nice.
Dinner.
Fucking eating good.
They're delicious. Over those 15 years, what did you see in the bear population difference? And then at the end of that, talk about shooting the one dude shooting the bear in the face with a 22.
Oh, dude. Well, he didn't shoot him in the face, but I'll get to that.
Shoot him at him with a 22, I guess.
No, he spined him.
Yeah.
So when I started in Open Creek in like 2000-ish, something like that, it was a big deal. If one group, like say you got 10, 12 hunters, so you got 5 or 6 guys, that's 5 or 6 groups going out. It was a big deal if one group saw one bear in an 8-day, 6-day hunt. I didn't even carry a pistol most of the time. And then I got a pistol and it stayed on my bedroll most of the time. And then I finally bought an airlight that I would carry. But then if you just fast forward,
What's an Airlight?
That Airline Smith & Wesson 44 mag.
TI.
Oh, okay. Airlight's the name of it because it was lightweight.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
like that titanium.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's 18 ounces or something, but
Okay.
it's really
It
it's
has some
really hard.
wop,
Mason, look that up.
Has-
Airlight, titanium, Smith & Wesson.
has some wop on both ends.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not
imagine.
corded.
Tough to hold on.
Yeah, you only get like 2 shots and then you're too scared of it. But if you fast forward to my last year in there, you would see more than one bear a day.
Wow.
So if you go back to my first couple of years, like
Is that what it looks like?
Little baby.
that black one in the middle with the wood deal, like I
Right
put-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. That's it.
That fucker is light and wide.
Go in there, Mace. How much does that weigh?
Hit visit.
Hit visit. Tech specs.
It ain't
Oh, it tells you right
26
there.
ounces.
26 ounces.
Oh,
44 Magnum.
damn.
That's pretty with the wood handle. And the
That wood
black.
handle hurt my hand so bad I replaced it with a rubber one.
Oh, shit.
Like a Hogue over
Yeah.
grip one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're carrying, 17 round 9 mils.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
give you that much more opportunity. Like you said, you shoot that one a couple times and you're scared to death of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
But like going back to that, like, so if you go back to my first year in the Thorofare, I didn't even like, I would ride up the trail and you'd bugle off your horse or cow call. Like, oh, there's one up there. He doesn't sound very good. Let's keep going. Oop, there's one. Let's walk up the hill. Let's kill him. I mean, that was
That was how it
literally
went.
how hard it was.
Oh my
Ooh.
goodness.
And, granted, they were mainly like the 300 kind of bulls, 6x6s that you would kill that way. You kill big bulls, you go up high. But if you had a hunter that couldn't go over, like that's how the hunt went. Now, my last couple of years was like you actually had to hunt. You had to get up high and you had to hunt a 300 bull. It wasn't just a gimme like it was when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
Do you think that's because of the predators? I'm sure there was more wolves if there was more bears. So you think the
Yeah.
predators moving in had a lot to do with that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the majority of it. I mean, I want to say, don't quote me, but I thought that there's documentation somewhere of grizzly bears killing about 60% of the calf crop
Yeah.
Jiminy Christmas.
in that country.
Wow.
Did you notice an uptick in wolf sightings?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I saw my first one was right above camp. He was just sitting in a meadow looking at us. And
Would you guys take shots on them if you?
in those days, no, because there just wasn't enough of them to, like, most of them were radio collared. They had us spooked, they're endangered.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, like all of a sudden, like the bugle had just shut off. That's the cool thing about Thorofare is we're rifle hunting right during the peak of the bugle when
Mhm.
bulls are breeding cows. So it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like one day everything's screaming, the next day everything's shut off. It's like, well, there's wolves in the drainage.
Mm.
And they were wild enough back then. You lob 4 or 5 rounds up in the air. The wolves would just clean out.
Mm-hmm.
And then your bugle would come back the next day.
Yep.
And that, that's changed now. The last couple of years I was in there, I watched a couple bulls go through the whole rut deal, like where they'd bugle, chuckle, not make a peep.
Mm.
But they'd get all splayed out. And I think that that's bulls, and I think that the elk kind of changed more from being in the fringy kind of piss fur country up at tree line, where they can just lay in a bush. I think that they get more into the deep dark green timber.
Cagey.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they're kind of learning how to.
Well, yeah. What I noticed with wolves is hunting, like in the sellway, is they like to be right on the edge of the breaks, and that steepness gives them some
Exactly.
comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But the deep dark timber do the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was the average before that? I read the one part where you were riding out by yourself, taking a meat load out, and you ran in one trip, you ran into like 5 or 6 bears. One trip, 6 grizzlies, different groups.
So I tell you what I don't say in the book is when you are 30 miles from a road, nobody really knows where you are. You're just on the trail between point A and point B somewhere. Nobody's expecting you until probably 2 hours after dark before they even start to worry about you. And you get chased by a grizzly bear and you're by yourself. You've got, I think I had 8 with me that day. Maybe it was 6. It doesn't matter. But like you got 8 mules, you got a riding mule yourself, and you've got a bear stalking you. Like I used to rodeo. So like, you know, you get bucked off, you get slammed on the ground, and your hand gets stuck. Like it's going to stop at some point because there's people there. They can get a rope on the bull. Like it's terrifying because the bull doesn't know mercy, you know, or somebody cuts in front of you in traffic. You got to slam on your brake. Ooh, that was scary. This is a sustained scared for like 10 hours. And then you realize like, well, the only way I get out of this is if I get out of it.
Nobody's coming to help.
It's only me. Yeah. Like when that bear ran us, man, I had packs upside down and mules all fucked up everywhere.
Do you think it was chasing you because it smelt the meat?
Oh yeah.
God dang.
Yeah. I don't think he was really coming after me.
Right.
That one. But, I think he was coming after the mules but I mean, he ran us, and I mean, he didn't just kind of run by. He ran us for several hundred yards down the trail. It was a plumb chaos, full-fledged runaway. Like I had my mule's head pulled all the way around in my lap. I grabbed my rein, pulled it around, saw the metal bit, grabbed the bit, pulled it up into my lap.
Dang.
And this mule's just straight away. And I turn around and look, and this bear's like 20 yards behind my last mule. And I'm like, kick everything loose and, you know, lay down. Fuck, we left the trail. We were jumping off of those, like, not cliffs, but like rim rocks as high as this table. You know, you're just full-fledged runaway. And
what is like I like how you say it in there, you don't say forest service, you say forest circus. What does the forest circus what do you have to prove to them when you shoot a bear that it was a rightful or just shooting?
Yeah, and just to be for technicality, it's the Game and Fish and the Fish Wildlife Service.
The Forest Service, I guess, doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, the squirrel cops. I don't know. You know, there's so many of those investigations are still open. You know, obviously blood and scratch marks. We'll get it closed pretty quick. But
you can't save your mule from being attacked by a grizzly.
Yeah, I think you can.
Can you?
I think that they would probably, but you just never know. Like one day we had a bear down, and this is kind of the older days, but the guy came in and walked up there and looked everything over and was like, you know, blessed it, cut all 4 paws off and the head off and threw them in a gunny sack and left.
And that's so you guys can't keep that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of years later, we knock another one down in camp. Like, cannot be any more clear that that's a threat. And they fly a helicopter in and they net the son of a bitch out. They stick rods in him to make sure that the bullets were coming from the front, you know, and all that stuff. Like that bear. We had this bear, this huge problem bear that's been coming into camp for a couple of days, and they couldn't get him run out of camp Jack and Wrangler. And I come rolling into camp and everybody's still out. It's just me and the cook and Camp Jack and Wrangler and a couple of hunters that were in. And everybody's gathered around the fire, and the cook doesn't want to cook, and the hunters don't want to leave. All the hunters have their guns, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we can't make this son of a bitch leave. And like, you'd run him out of the north side of the camp and he'd come in the east side, like immediately. And he would never run. He would just kind of walk away and go in, just get a little out of sight and circle and come in. And you'd push him out, and he'd come back in the south side of camp. And then he'd come in the west side of camp, and he's just doing that all night. So we finally get squared up with him. It's a big, long, drawn out story, but we get him kind of in a meadow, and he squares up with us and gets his head down. He's popping his jaws. And I said, if he's going to charge, shoot him. And I've got a SWAT issue street sweeper 12 gauge. Like It got a couple hunters there.
It went from packing no pistols to having shotguns just for bears.
Yeah, so I didn't say that. Like, I went from no pistols to pistols, and then like even the Timothy Treadwell type guides that were like, the bears, I've been in here 20 years and the bears know me and they know I don't mean them any harm. Like, even those motherfuckers.
There's
are
not,
carrying
is there
guns.
really fucking guides like that?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
there's a couple.
The
Wow,
bears
man.
know me.
The bears, they know that I'm friendly.
That's almost a quote of what a guy told me one time, but
Holy shit.
they were making fun of me one day because I had a shotgun, and we go through this hunt, and then we're out, and I'm at the store, the outdoor store there in Cody, and there's this other guy, and he's buying a shotgun. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You're right. Need a shotgun."
So Timothy Treadwell, he literally tried to be friends with Kodiak bears, and he said that he knew them. He became part of their fucking little pack, and then they ate him.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that guy up in, was that Katmai or something?
Yeah, fucking tree hugger.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, we're squared off with this bear, and here he comes, and I was pulling the slack out of the trigger. Like, we were all going to shoot, and this little pew goes off, and the bear just shit cans this bear. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And there's the camp jack standing there with his pistol. And I'm like, did you just shoot that bear with your 22 pistol? And he goes, yeah. I said, you're a stupid son of a bitch, aren't you? He goes, yeah.
Well, fucking dropped him though.
Dude, canned him.
Yeah.
And hit him right in the neck. So we got to call the squirrel cops come in. And they're like, all right. 'Cause they split everybody off and they interview you to make sure everybody's stories are straight.
Try to find somebody.
They're like, we're going to net this bear out of here. We're like, okay, good. We're going to do an autopsy. Okay, good. Tell us what you're going to find, or what we're going to find.
A 22 through the spinal
We're
cord.
going to find a 22 through the spinal cord and a 44 in his forehead to finish him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that. What else are we going to find? Like, come on, it's your time to come clear. We're like, no, we're serious.
Guilty till proven innocent.
Yeah. And they took him out, and I'll be damned, they only found a 22 round. But they also, like, on a deal like that, so like that's a threatening bear in camp. So you're totally justified, right? In our minds.
Yeah.
No.
Because of the proximity to camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. Because when they take that bear out, then they do an autopsy, they cut his stomach open, see what he's been eating. If he's been eating camp treats, you're getting a fine.
Oh,
You're getting a big one.
I see.
Big fine.
I see.
What do they consider camp treats?
Anything that's not.
Elk meat.
Oh.
Interesting. So they're literally trying to fuck you the whole time. Not in your words, my words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can say it. I've been a thorn in their side for a long time, but like, so in 1978, the bears come on the endangered species list. So, well, they need a way to figure out how many bears are there. So you'd think that they'd count them, right? No. What they did was they count sows with cubs of the year. And then everything was an algorithm based off of that. So like, we figure 1.3 boars to, and 0.9 sows without cubs and too young for cubs. And so they come up with this bullshit number. And I was arguing with this guy wrote in, one of the game cops, and I was mad about bears. And he's like, have you read the management plan? Like, shut up if you haven't read the management plan. So I tried to read the management plan. You can't read it because you don't understand all the studies that they're citing and stuff. So I went to 1978 and I read every one. So this Choi 2 estimator is this algorithm thing. We had that for years, and that was off by probably 80%. And a lot of it is reasonable. Like, okay, if it's an endangered species, you want to estimate them low. But over time, as this extrapolates out, like in 1978, you were low by 2 or 3 bears. Pretty soon you're low by 100 bears. A little later, you're low by 300 bears. And they just recently updated and got off of that. But I mean, for Christ's sakes, that outdated the internet or predated the internet. This Choi 2 estimator and all these, and the studies that they're citing are these academic liberal tofu eating bastards from Bozeman and stuff. And
so they keep moving the goalpost every year.
every year.
And when you say management plan, how are they taking bears out of this management to manage them? This plan to manage them. What are they doing to manage them? Means you're taking bears out.
No.
Yeah, but they don't.
It's a
Like,
counting plan.
It's
not a
a counting.
management
Yeah, it's
plan.
not a
it's
fucking
counting
management
plan,
plan.
and a holding people accountable, like, for like, well, you hit a bear on the road. Well, how fast were you going? Were you going too fast for conditions? It looks like you're going too fast for conditions because you hit a bear.
Do you think that they will have a hunting season on grizzly bears in Idaho, Wyoming, Montana anytime soon?
So no. Not unless major changes are made. I think that they've moved the goalpost, like we exceeded every parameter in, I want to say, like 98. And they've moved the goalposts every time it's come up since then. They shop judges. I'm not going to come right out and say that they're paying off judges, but why would you shop judges if you're not paying them off? It's just corrupt, and it's like, look, I love bears. I love grizzly bears. I like having them. I think they're good for the ecosystem. They keep a lot of people out of the mountains that shouldn't be there. But this is about the ecosystem. And like, we can all agree that the lady in the 900 square foot apartment that has 400 cats has a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've become. Like, the Yellowstone ecosystem is a relatively small place, and you just cannot put an unlimited number of an apex predator in there without ramifications to other species, plants, everything. Like, that affects everything. You want to read an insane book that'll make you mad, is read Playing God in Yellowstone. And they talk about kind of how this stuff was done, like how the wolves change rivers and shit. Like, all of a sudden the beavers appeared. That's bullshit. The Park Service illegally, because they didn't go through all the processes, they planted beavers in there.
No way.
And the best part is guess what ate the beavers? The wolves. That's why the wolf change river thing kind of just fizzled.
Well,
But-
it's also spilling out of bears are coming to problem. I've hunted my whole life in North Idaho. I'd never seen a bear until probably 2010-ish. And now pretty much, not every time, but every other time I see bears I almost see bear tracks every time. And I'm talking grizzly bears, not black bears.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be just in a certain area, micro area. It's going to be all over the West. And guess what? There's a lot of people that don't hunt, hiking, have no bear spray, and no way to protect themselves. They're fucking out there hiking with Fluffy, and they're going to get fucked up.
Yep.
And I think that's what it takes to get some of these tree huggers in Congress, in the Department of Interior, to figure out, hey, we might fucking actually need to do something to manage these fucking things.
But yeah, and you're an optimist. Like,
I think hopefully this administration puts the right people in place to fucking actually say,
that's the only thing that'll do it.
Right.
Like, and we made some progress on the bear deal when they just got off of that method of counting. And like, one of the things in that count was they said, a sow needs 30 square kilometers of sustainable hunt. So they just wouldn't count any other bear that they saw 30 kilometer. Oh, there's a sow with cubs of the year. They would just move on. And so you could literally fly up. I'm just doing this to prove a point, but you could fly over and you could see 1 million bears. That in that count, that would have been 0 bears, unless you saw one that was a sow with cubs of the year.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So, and like, it's a huge step to get off of that. And they've updated this counting process, and that's why the count went from like 700 every year to now they're saying it's like 1,000 or 1,200 or something, which is still horseshit. There's way more than that. But every one of those guys will tell you to your face, like, yeah, we have way too many bears. Nothing we can do. But like we were talking about Operation Pineapple the other day, like those guys were complaining about, like, there was no high-ranking official that threw his rank on the desk and said, this is wrong that we're not exfilling these people from Afghanistan.
It's Afghanistan withdrawal.
None of our game and fish guys who I admit are good guys. A lot of them are my friends, but not one of those guys is willing to risk their pension to say what they think. And I think that that's sad. And I think that tells you a lot about the organization, the structure that's there, that those guys are more worried about their job than doing what their charter is to manage wildlife. Like, you know, if you manage those bears properly and wolves properly, like the rest takes care of itself, you know, or if you manage the elk properly and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, something's killing 60% of our calves every year. This isn't sustainable. Well, the answer isn't to cut tags. Tags are like, hunters take 3% of the population, you know, like that's not even a drop in the bucket. You need to go on to the real problem. And what should be celebrated as a giant success that the bears aren't threatened anymore is not. And now they're like, they even admit it. They're like, yeah, they're not endangered. We just want the Yellowstone bears to have a corridor for genetic diversity to the Bitterroots ecosystem. I think it's Bitterroot, because whatever it is. So they want those bears to connect so they can have a more vibrant gene pool. Like, well, how there's towns and freeways and all kinds of shit between here and there. Like that goalpost is going to be hard to.
It is. And I didn't really ever believe this until the last couple of years, but I do think it is a way this predator releases with the wolves, these I guess managed bears is a way to limit and get rid of hunting. I really think that's a ploy with them and how they're going about it.
Yeah.
Because if you dump enough predators in there, there's no reason to go in there and hunt if there's nothing in there to actually shoot.
Well, you look at the first thing that happens when they notice a population decline is they cut tags. And like to just a layperson, that's like, okay, well, that makes sense. We're just going to shoot less and help the population. But you got to look at what percentage of the population is taken by hunters. That's you know what I mean? That's the real question. And it's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the success rates over the counter public in Idaho is, you know, usually around 3%, like you said.
It is. And but we fund everything. So if our funds go away, those bears and those wolves go away. That's the thing they don't see on the other side.
Yeah. And that's like the Wyoming Game and Fish is 100% funded by sportsmen. I mean, they get some grants and stuff, but like, and then we've got to defend ourselves. Like I've been at 8 felony investigations for grizzly bears. Like, and I've never been the trigger man on one, you know,
but you were around. Oh, interesting. I got a few things on horses and mules.
Yeah. I didn't mean to go on it.
No, this is great. We try to keep it an hour, but we'll keep going. Maybe we'll break it into 2, unless Jake's got to pee.
Motherfucker, you're the fucking narrow urethra, tiny bladder guy. You're asking me if I got to pee.
The dude on the horse that had a catheter.
What I'm trying to figure out is if you could hear all them noises coming out of you while we're on the podcast here.
We got beta.
We got like stomach gurgling fucking noises coming out, and I'm thinking like, what the fuck were you doing last night?
I know it's not you.
Huh? Because I can hear myself.
It's that carnivore dog.
Like I'm literally like back here listening to like Huffle Puffle over here.
No, I've definitely got
there's
sinus.
There's like digestive noises coming out of you. I've never seen that before.
Dude, it's the.
I should say I never heard that before.
It's the pre-carnivore fear. How do we know it's not Zach?
It's not Zach. I can tell he's a quiet breather like me. See, quiet breathers know a quiet breather when we see him.
Dude, I've heard you be a fucking Hufflepuff.
I'm not saying I haven't been before. I'm just saying today. It's like you've been drinking since 3 a.m. and all that shit's trying to come back now.
It's like all sinuses.
Is it?
Oh, dude.
It's going around.
This motherfucker.
Well, don't deny it and then admit it afterwards.
The stomach thing, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
the
God.
Snuffling? Yeah.
You had to turn your head away at one point. I'm over here watching you. When the stomach noises were coming out, it was like, you were like, oh.
This motherfucker's like my wife. They're just fucking nitpicking little Fitch over
You
there.
started this shit, you asked if I had to pee.
Do you have to pee?
Nope.
You have to shit?
Much easier answer that time.
You okay?
Yeah, get it after it. Let's go.
Are you good now?
I'm good.
Did you get it all out?
I've been
your
good.
system?
I've been good. Yeah, I've been waiting to say this shit, so thank you for that. I can relax now.
It's like a husband-wife. He's the wife.
Who's Little Spoon?
I was about to say, if you were to
Who's
look
the
at the
big
two of
part?
us, who's the fucking little spoon? It don't take much to figure that out.
He's a pacifist. Though.
That's right.
That's the problem. On the mule side, I talked a little bit on the phone about this, and in your book, you ride horses and mules.
Yeah.
And then you told me what you told me, but we'll go through it here, is if you had to pick one or the other, or vice versa, or what's the strength and weaknesses? You've seen it for 15 years.
Yeah. Just as a 30,000 foot overview, I haven't seen very many mules that would kill themselves because they got scared. Can't say that about horses. I've seen several horses, fall off cliffs and get themselves into bigger binds than they need to be in. I would take a good horse over a good mule, but I wouldn't take a common horse over a good mule. It just kind of depends on where you're going to. Like if we're going up, like Ship's Helm is this real rocky ridge. It was a knife ridge that like you needed little mules with like aughts, little, like size 0 shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take them. They're tougher. I wouldn't take a horse up in that country, but yeah, it kind of depends. Like I prefer I just prefer a good horse, but I know that there's people that prefer good mules. One of the things and a good mule won't really do this. So I'm not trying to be like that, but it's more natural for a horse to just ride out of camp and leave the herd. Like if you're riding them, mules, a lot of times you got to fight them out of camp. Horses have a easier rein on them.
This is when they're by themselves?
No, this is like you're riding out of camp, so in our camps, like we'd have 40 head of horses and mules they'd be in the meadow above camp. A lot of times you're hunting above camp. So like a lot of mules just don't want to leave camp or don't want to leave the herd, so you're trying to ride out of camp and they don't want to leave. And then you get them out of camp and then they see the herd and then they're trying to go to the herd. And, a horse is easier to just get by. But
that's why mules make better pack animals in a pack string.
Yeah.
They all kind of want to chill together.
Yeah. And mules, man, they have a pecking order. They that one camp I was in, we had our own string and those were our 8 mules that we took care of. And we knew what order. They had a pecking order. And if you got them out of the order, they would be fighting. And
they want to look at that same ass for 30 hours, 30 miles there.
They have like an alpha and a beta. And
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've ridden some amazing mules and some amazing horses, and I've ridden shitheads on both of them too.
What is you say good horse? What's a good horse mean to you?
To me, it just means something that is even tempered. Like, when you guys were on that podcast, to me, a good horse has experience, and they don't get experience without being there. So I always liked older, I'll let some kid ride them around a round pen, get bucked off. Let some kid introduce them to their first grizzly bear, and so that way they've seen this stuff and have experience, and I don't have to move a certain way. I don't have to, the mark of a good horse for me is can I be riding up the trail in the dark in the morning and drop the reins, pull out a can of Copenhagen and take a dip, or get a drink out of my water bottle? Can I stop them and get my glasses out and glass up on the hill and they'll stand there? And that's same with horse or mule. And, a lot of those, a lot of the outfitters, they'll buy the cheapest thing that they can find. And then the employees are the ones who
break them in.
Oh. So I can't tell you how many mornings are earing down mules in the morning and crawling on, and you're 30 miles from a road, mules bucking out through the trees, getting hit in the face with branches. And, I had a Badlands binocular case, and I love those magnets because you don't have the zip, zip, zip. Well, you get on your first bucking mule in the morning and those magnets pop open and then your binoculars are hitting you in the teeth.
Oh,
and
shit.
So I went back to the zipper.
The Bubba mule, you said, and I find this funny that you kept bringing it up in the story that every time you try to get on it, it'd kick you, but you kept going back to him.
Yeah, man. Like he was one of my mules. And that story's funny. That ties into the Bob guy. And those kill pen horses, you know, that are, for whatever reason, they're in the kill pen. That's age or whatever, and they're going to load them on a truck and send them into Mexico or Canada for be turned into dog food or glue or whatever. So a lot of these outfitters will run up and be like, "Oh, he looks all right," and they'll snatch something out of the kill pen. Well, I get this horse, and the boss is like, "Oh, he'll be good," and he was not good. We had wreck after wreck, and finally, I just pull all my shit off of him, and I've got 2 propane loads.
On that, is this the one that flew down the hill by you? Oh, head over. So you got to go a little bit into that detail because it's very interesting.
So we're kind of side hilling up this trail, and it's kind of shaly rock. And this horse is so concerned about leading the pack, he's trying to pass everybody, and I keep stepping off the trail. He's not watching where his feet are. And I don't know how it happened. Like, I'm not usually this catty, but all of a sudden my uphill stirrup hit the ground. And I just stepped off, and the horse rolls down the hill. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm not riding this son of a bitch another step.
Mm.
So I bring him up and tie him to a tree. And I've got these two pack mules that both have propane loads on them. And we're going into set camp. I'm like, I don't need 2 loads of propane. So I just grabbed a mule just randomly. And that's this mule turns out to be this Bubba is his name. And he's this little black mule. And, or bay, I guess. And, I'm taking my saddle off the dun horse and putting it on Bubba and kind of having a wreck. And all of a sudden the dun horse just claws up this tree, this big, I don't know what it was, ponderosa, tamarack, something. But he puts strike marks up the tree, like over my head when I ride by on a horse. And he runs up this shale deal and gets cliffed out like 200 yards above us. And then he sits down like a dog and then just flips over backwards.
Question of the week powered by ADG.
What is optimal shoulder bump for a hunting rifle?
All right, optimum shoulder bump for a hunting rifle. You want to make sure that you have no resistance really to closing the bolt. In a hunting situation, you want to make sure that you have some extra clearance in there if you get some moisture or some dirt and debris that you might not have in a competition setting. Typically, that bump was probably going to be around 2-3 thousandths, I would guess.
And comes down the hill. And I mean, like, he's gaining speed. And like, he'd be like 5 feet off the ground and do like a full somersault.
Holy shit.
And land. And he's coming right for my string. And my string of mules saw him coming, and they all like bared down and leaned into him, and he fucking wipes him out. And he ends up with his feet caught in this little piss fur, and he's laying like off the trail with his head down, so he can't get up. And like, I can't even describe how mad the horse tried to kill everybody.
Mm.
So I go down there and sling a rope around his back feet and flip him out of the tree. And he rolls to the bottom. And I'm like, he's dead. That's a dead horse. There's no way around it. Now we're going to have to fight bears all season because there's no way we can get him out of here. And he rolls all the way to the bottom, splashes into the river, jumps up, starts eating grass. Just a couple little scrapes on his legs, but nothing. And I'm like, that's it. Like, then I got mad. Like, I got like primal mad, and I'm marching down the hill, and I'm going to shoot this son of a bitch. And
Like, you wish you would have died, horse.
Like a great horse probably would have got fucked up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, any horse over $500 would have died.
Mm.
And, that's just Murphy's Law. But, like, I'm in this heated battle with this horse, and I've forgotten everything that's around me. And all of a sudden the wrangler's behind me, like tapping me on the shoulder, and he's got the sat phone. And he's got the boss on the sat phone. And I'm like, I'm going to kill this son of a bitch. And he's like, you're going to owe me $500 if you kill that horse. And I'm like, well, you come find your horse then. Like, he's not coming with me. I'm not tying him on. He broke his halter. Like, fuck that horse. And so I finished dragging Bubba out of the string and get him saddled, and we have a little rodeo, and I just stuck him right behind the pack mule that was the last pack mule in the string in front of me. And like Bubba didn't know what the reins meant. Like my legs touched him weird. He'd dance off, kind of buck. But through the course of the couple hunts, this mule just becomes this tough, just dirty, tough, awesome mule.
Mm.
And then I killed an elk right over by the park line, and we got into a bad with a bear. Like that bear was trying to kill us. And I had gone in, like we killed this bull, and we didn't have horses with us. I walked back to camp. I had the tenderloins and back straps in my backpack. And like whenever I'd sit on a log, it'd leave like blood spots. There's like a foot of snow. I come back into camp, tell the wrangler, like, hey, saddle a pack mule and a horse, and you're coming with me. We got to go get this elk. I go in, change, come right back out, jump on my horse. We leave. Like we're in camp 10 minutes. And we get like 20 yards out of camp. There's this huge bear track. Like I wear a size 12. I had my Sorel pack boots on. My heel did not touch his heel, and my toe did not touch his
Holy
paws.
shit.
Like this is like bears in Wyoming are 400 pounds. Like everybody's like, or less. Like a big bear's 400 pounds.
Mm.
This bear was like the Moby Dick of bears that I've seen in there. And so I've got this brand new Wrangler with me, same guy that had the sat phone. And this bear circles in my tracks and tracks me backwards.
Mm.
And he licks all the blood off the logs where I had sat. And I thought that I was doing a good thing. Like I hid these quarters. I drug these quarters like 200 yards off the elk, hit him in this little cut. And fuck, that was a mistake. Like I thought that when you think a human hiding, we're going to hide.
Yeah.
Like you want to put your elk quarters up where you can see them from a mile away.
Know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah. So we pull up on the top of this cut, and this bear's eating quarters. And I yell at him. And he just like looks and steps over the quarters and gets his head down and keeps eating. And I jump off my mule and zing one over his head. And he would just stay there.
Hmm.
And like, I'm no bear biologist, but this motherfucker meant business.
He was the alpha there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He don't care what you're doing.
So I roll back into camp. Like I'll finish that. I turn around, and the wrangler's just sitting on his horse, like eyes this big, not ready for a fight, doesn't have his gun ready, nothing.
Mm.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm getting back on my horse, and we're going back to camp. Like I'll come in here in a couple days, and I'll pick up these antlers, and meat's gone. I'm not fucking with this bear. So it was the outfitter's first or second year owning the camp, and these people, like if I said their names, everyone would know who they are.
Mm.
Really affluent people from down south. And they, the dad, like the kid that killed the bull, this is a 378. He's a stud bull. And, the kid's like, cool, be safe. No problem. I'm getting my antlers, right? Like, yeah, you got your antlers and you got your tenderloins and back straps, but like, I'm not going to mess with this bear. I'll go get your antlers in a couple days. He's like, cool. The dad is not cool.
Mm.
So the dad gets the outfitter off the side and starts cussing at the outfitter about how we can't get this elk and blah, blah, blah. So the outfitter's like, okay, so here's the plan. Tomorrow morning, we're going in. Like, all you hunters are staying here. I'm going with Zach. We're going to go get your bull, and then Zach's going to come help me get my bull.
It's already such bullshit that a guy would have the balls. Like, there's a fucking gigantic grizzly on the quarters, and you're mad because we can't get your meat back. Like,
yeah.
That's nature, man. Like,
dude,
you couldn't predict that was going to happen. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and like that's what sucked is he tracked me backwards. If he would have gone off his nose, he would have went right to the gut pile.
Yeah,
and that's why I spent all that time getting those quarters away. It just sucked. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
That's the case where that guy should go back and get him himself.
Yeah,
so bad.
Well,
see what happens.
I would say, hey, if you want him that bad, you're coming with us and you're up front.
Yeah. But me and the outfitter roll out of camp like a couple of dickheads in the morning with pistols. And we're long trotting down there, and the outfit
in the book, you're going to John Wayne him.
Yeah,
that's what the guy outfitter said.
Yeah. So that night, and when he's I'll finish that part. Is that night at the dinner table, he's this tall, skinny guy, used to fight bulls good. Just over the top animated guy. And he's like, Zach, you gotta go in there whipping and sprint. You gotta John Wayne those cocksuckers. And I'm like, dude, that bear meant business. And I turned to the wrangler, like, you think that bear meant business? Like,
and you don't even have like an iPhone back then to take like the video or the picture for like the proof when you go back. Like,
nope.
It could be, in their eyes, it could be this little bear and you're exaggerating shit, right? But you could have had a video be like, yeah, okay, we agree with you.
Yeah.
We're not going back.
So me and the boss roll in there and we're almost there. And he's like sneaking, he's walking his mule, but he's like looking around and whispering and shit. And like, how far are we? I'm like, about 100 yards. Like super loud. I'm like, there's going to be a big giant ass bear in the bottom of this ditch. And so we roll up there and the bear's still there.
Takes a long time to eat an elk.
Yeah. So the boss just like lets out an Indian war whoop and fuck down off the hill we come, crashing, whipping, spurring, John Wayne and these cocksuckers. And he jumps off, dude, feet. Like, I mean, well, okay, but like maybe 10 yards. He jumps off his mule and ties up.
10 yards from the bear.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
The bear don't move.
Bear hasn't moved.
Well, your outfitter has balls.
Yeah. Well,
Good
I mean,
Lord.
but that's so traditionally, like you'd get a bear would take an elk and you could John Wayne him. Like we do that all the time.
Yeah.
You just run in there, blow them off, get your shit, get out.
And so your knowledge pre this, you already know
This works.
This works, but it's probably not going to work on this particular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'm having all kinds of bad feelings.
Yeah.
And so boss jumps off his mule, ties up, and like instantly pulls his gun and shoots. So I'm off my mule, tie up my riding mule, grab the pack mule, and bang, the gun goes off. Pack mule pulls back. I grab her, pull her back up, tie her off to a tree, turn around, pull my pistol, and here comes the boss. And he is running. Like he was like, those snapshots you get in your head of like a memory. Like he had a circuit finals bullfighting buckle on, like big shiny belt buckle, and is all decked in camo. And he's like stretched out with his pistol up and like just hauling ass.
He was running for his life.
And he's yelling, shoot, shoot, shoot. And this son of a bitch comes by. I mean, closer than me to you.
The bear.
Yeah. From both of us.
Running after your boss.
Yeah. So, and I've got my gun out and like you don't have time to aim nothing. Like all this goes so fast.
Yeah.
And I just go to shoot. And Bubba was my riding mule.
Yeah.
Tries to kick the bear or me. And I'm standing right.
Didn't matter who.
So
Bubba
like
was
I'm,
kicking somebody.
He's fucking somebody up.
So I go to like, I'm trying to shoot this bear and all of a sudden I get double barreled, both hind feet. And when he recoils his hind feet, he like sucks me under. I get all tangled up. I got a backpack and shit on, and I end up underneath Bubba and he stomped the shit out of me. Like I broke like 3 bones in my foot and broke a bunch of toes. And anyway, so we have this big standoff with this bear and finally we get the antlers loaded and like we pulled those lead ropes. And I mean, those fucking mules, I was on the ground. Like I just had my hand on the saddle horn, pulled that lead rope and dead run.
Gone.
Like I had to do like trick ride, jump up into the
With a
saddle.
broken ass foot.
In the book, though, you got to like tell the story you write. This is a fucking good book. You guys have got to read this book. You say you're in the bullshit. The outfitter looks over and says, "Damn, that's a nice bull."
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Dude, we're having this standoff and like this bear's like cackling. I've never heard bears do this. Like I've heard it on some videos, but that was my first time experience that.
Yeah.
Like it's not popping
It's like
their
guttural.
jaws. Yeah. And we're like, it's all piss furs in this, like little Christmas trees. So you can't see him, but he's right there. And then all of a sudden it's like a freight train and this bear would charge you and they just run smooth by you, like close enough to smack him on the nose. And he'd run by and go up on the hill and like do that cackling shit. And so we're trying to we're back to back and we're like reloaded and we look over and like, fuck, the antlers are right there. The boss is like, dude, that's a sweet bull.
So nobody hit the bear.
No.
And you got the rack and you got out of there. You didn't get any meat.
No, we got the rack. But just that tenderloins and back straps is all we got.
So you got back and you tell the tall, skinny, animated dude, you tell him, it is what it is.
Well, so when we pulled those lead ropes, they took off. And like we were passengers. Like I ended up throwing the lead rope to the pack mule and it was perfect. It wrapped around his neck and the tail landed up on the antlers. And so we're just balls out. And we finally hit the trail and we kind of got him into a trot, but we couldn't get him any less than that. And we come screeching into camp and of course they heard some gunshots and they, like everybody's eyes are this big and the boss is like, give me that, to the wrangler. He's like, go get my fucking shotgun and go get my rifle. Like he's just barking orders at everybody. And I threw the antlers on the ground. I'm like, there's your fucking antlers, boys. And so a couple years go by after this and I run into him at the Irma Hotel in Pendleton, in Cody. And the dad was like, dude, I did not know what happened until the whole story had come out. Like he was like, I'm so sorry. I made you guys do that. Like, thanks. But it's too late now. Like we almost died.
Mm-hmm. The thing that jumps out about that story is like I said, you guys got to buy this book. It's really good. But when he says, I have a 44 and the outfitter has a fucking judge, you know what a Taurus judge is? Yeah. It's a piece of shit. Shoots a 45 long Colt or a 410.
410, yeah.
And
a revolver.
Yep, historically pieces of shit. And that's what he's trying to fucking kill a bear.
It's a rattlesnake. It's a rattlesnake gun.
It is. It's a piece of shit. There's no way it's killing a bear.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That was its last trip to the mountains too. Like he got a new gun and he got a bunch of stuff. But like I had never lost any meat to anything. And then that year I lost, I think I lost a ram and 2 elk.
Shit.
Just bang, bang, bang. So that's why that kind of parlays into that story where I'm taking that meat run. I was the only guy tagged out. The boss is like he's bear scared. And he was right. I was. He's like, I'm going to get him out of here and I'm going to give him a couple days off to cool off. So then I have all that shit with the bears on the trail. And that was a real dry year. Like it was a train wreck, like perfect storm year for having really bold bears, not enough feed. So they were all over us. And we had just taken over that camp. And
maybe in this area too, the bears kind of got used to the fact that you guys were killing elk. They knew you were killing elk. They knew when you were there.
100%.
And they knew when there was going to be a carcass on the ground, even a gut pile, and that smell of that elk, like moving, taking meat out. I mean, that's what they knew.
100%.
They knew you.
So
just like the guy told you, they know me.
Yeah. Yeah. But like when I took those elk out, I was like, I quit. Like I told my wife, like, I'm done. I'm not going back in there. It's too dangerous. And so the boss calls and he's like, hey man, a bear came through the cook tent last night and tore the shit out of it. I need you to grab some bear fence from the house and I need you to grab some patch material and roll back into camp. And I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah, man, we really need you to. I'm like, well, I'm not riding that stupid mule again. And he's like, okay, go to the house and grab something else out of the corral. And so I rolled back in. So I quit for like 5 hours.
Quit for the night. We hunted in Montana in this place by this big ranch, and we ran into a guy today that does like predator management. And he said that particular ranch, those fucking bears will come down from those gunshots and they'll know exactly where they need to go get that gut pile.
They have GPS collar data that they're migrating out of Yellowstone into that area for the gut pile, which should raise a red flag as to like how much habitat
yes
they're using up. Like if they're going to gut piles and traveling for them.
Yep.
Well, right. Well, we're talking about the first time we went there when Mason shot his the next day. Had grizzlies on it.
Yep.
Had a sow and cubs on it the very next day.
Yeah. And next day when I walked up to the one the first time, the dog ran the grizzly off. They're bad.
Yeah.
And people.
Oh yeah, yours. You dropped yours, and there was that's
and
right.
They don't. People that run into black bears, this is a different fucking beast altogether.
Yeah,
and I don't this sounds like tough. I don't fear black bears running black bear encounters. I'm sure you've been into some. Jake's been into some. When you see a grizzly, that thing is built to fucking kill you. That like when people say, "Oh, I accidentally shot a grizzly bear," no, you just shot at something, or you knew you were shooting at a grizzly bear. You're not mistaking that fucker for a black bear.
I disagree with that.
You do?
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story that you guys might have heard of before, but
you disagree of that you're getting tricked.
There is really legit mistaken identities. It has to come under certain circumstances, certain age groups. Like you take a young, like a full grown grizzly.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Right.
Take like a 2-year-old cub that's wet, doesn't really have his hump yet. The right lighting conditions, right color phase, and they'll look like a black bear. It's hard to tell them. And I'll say that I'll support my argument by saying that the head bear biologist for the greater Yellowstone ecosystem whacked a grizzly bear thinking it was a black bear.
Really?
Yeah. He almost lost his job, and he shouldn't lose his job over it. Like it was a legit mistake.
Well,
but
it's funny you say that because this year in the state of Idaho, we have to do a test now because of the people said, hey, they sent it to the fishing
they're
game
doing that shit to us too.
and said, hey, is this a black bear or grizzly? They sent it to the head of whatever the bear guy was.
That's good right there. So that's actually a 2-year-old grizzly on the right. Just like you said, there's not really a hump there.
Yep.
I'm very minimally, I have the least amount of experience. So I'll say just looking at him, he would look like a big black bear to me right now because of like the circle round head with the little ears.
Yeah.
But without the hump, he looked like a big black bear.
I guess I got a better eye because that wouldn't trick me for a second. I seen a grizzly bear cub come across an opening at 2 miles.
Yeah.
And I had binoculars. I was like, well, that's a grizzly bear. But
there's times when like, just never say never.
Yeah, you never say never, but like even the state of Idaho, that's why we have to take that test is because the fucking head of the bear predator management, we had hunters send in a picture off of a bait and said, is this a black bear or a grizzly? They said, oh, it's a black bear. They shot it and it was a fucking grizzly.
Yeah,
so even even the bear fucking head of the bear management, they were tricked. So I guess never say never. Yeah. But damn, man.
It would be a bummer.
It would be a bummer, but I haven't seen one yet that tricked me.
Well, you probably will.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing more and more, so I could.
Yeah. Well, these grizzly bear cubs on that picture right now on the right look like middle-aged black bears. There's no hump. I don't know what you're looking at to tell you that's a grizzly bear or not, but
yeah, kind of ears and facial structure for me when you don't have a hump. Kind of that dish in
they just
between their eyes.
The middle one looks like the black bear mason we just put up on the wall.
They just look like they just look like a different breed of. They look like they're here to kill you.
Yeah, but and I mean, like they're.
So I showed like 10 people this. And I shot this bear, and they say, "Oh, that's a grizzly."
No, that's a black bear. Yeah,
it's a monster black bear, but it's a fucking
cool color
bear.
Phase.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But people, they would say, "Oh, that's a fucking grizzly bear."
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's.
But you've looked at some and you had to take like a moment? Interesting,
dude. You've
seen a lot more than me, so I guess I can't. I
saw the biggest black bear I've ever seen anywhere in the thoroughfare, where black bears are not supposed to be because grizzly bears kill them, and he was holding the carcass off of 10 grizzlies. There's 10 grizzlies on this carcass, and the black bear was holding it.
No shit.
That was a bad cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't have wanted to cross him.
That's a mentality. That's a personality. That's not necessarily the difference between the bears.
Yeah. He was an alpha amongst alphas.
Yes.
Yeah. How much snow can you ride a mule or horse through?
Well, a lot. I mean, it just depends on how far.
Like, how do you know when you're absolutely fucked and you guys got to go out the other way?
You're kind of reading your horse.
I gotcha.
So like going over the pass,
like going over the passes, because you decide to go. So where they're at, they have to come over a pass, or they can ride out to Jackson Hole side, and it's like
78 miles or something to go out to Jackson side. Yeah, and 30 to come out the Cody side, depending on where you are. So it becomes a 2-day trip, and it's a train wreck because you don't have corrals, you don't have like when the park's closed, it's like an 8-hour drive to just get horse trailers around there and like no feed at the trailhead, like nothing. I never had to go out the Jackson side, but like the first year I wasn't in there, they got snowed in and they had to go out the Jackson side. But like they leave snow shovels up on the pass year round.
No kidding.
And like I've shoveled it more times than I can count. I think that there's some pictures in the
that's
book
right. In
of
the book, you said that's weird. Somebody left a snow shovel in here.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah. But like if you it doesn't actually take a lot of snow to hose you. Like if you get a wind event and it drifts in that pass, like we're going to Jackson, boys.
Like when you're hunting though, like if just a guy goes out hunting, the horse just slowly wears out. Is that the thing? You better.
Well, you'll hear them. Like you'll hear them sucking eggs when you're riding them. And like you take them up a steep hill, that's when you stop and let them breathe and trudging through snow like that, like especially the lead horses, if you're breaking trail, like it wears them out. It's just like you, when you're post holing through snow. So reading your horses or your equine animals, horse or a mule, just listening to them breathe, like knowing where they're at will save you so many wrecks in steep country. Like if you get and like paying attention to what's in your pack string, there have been a lot of guys roll mules and horses off of those passes. One of my buddies actually went down and tried to gather up all the pack saddles because nobody had ever done that. They're at the bottom of this avalanche chute, but all the porcupines had ate chewed all this because they're salty from the horse sweat. So he didn't get anything good out of there, I don't think. But if you're just like, you have freak accidents, sure, I get that. But most of the time, if you're paying attention and you see somebody struggling, you need to stop, let them breathe, catch their breath, keep going.
Don't be in a huge hurry.
Yeah. You just let them pick their way up over, that steep stuff. And you can boot them and beat them up a little bit on the flats and, to make some time. But at steep country, you just, like we had one of the squirrel cops killed a horse right on top of the pass. And I forget what the rule is. You got to get it off the trail like 200 yards or something. And
do they blow them up or something
sometimes? Yeah. There's a big crater in one of the, there's actually a schematic, I think, online somewhere that tells you where to put the dynamite to blow up your horse.
It's not in the mouth and butt.
I think that they put one like maybe in the mouth, but they put like 4 or 5 in the,
no shit.
They just blow them into chunks.
Yeah.
So the birds clean them up quicker and keeps the bears off of them. But I know that hole that we used to ride by all the time, like that was like a 2-3-year-old hole, and it was probably 4 feet by 6 feet, 4 feet deep by 6 feet around. Like that's a big boom. But
and then like grazing wise, you guys were they grazing on grass for the whole time, and then you supplement them with hay and pellets?
We don't even, like some camps, depends on the camp you're in. Some of the camps we wouldn't even bring feed in. They love that grass. They look like you can see it in them when you pull in the first like camp set. The first time you've gone in the summer, you cut them loose and they're like running for their horse meadow. And, but then other camps, you kind of depends on how you sort. Like, so in some camps, you'll do an evening sort. So you bring the horses in around 3, Wrangler will bring them all in. They'll figure out what they're going to use the next day, tie them up, then kick all the other ones out. Well, if they're going to stand in the corral all day, then you need to cube them. Like they make those alfalfa cubes that are packed tight with like molasses. And I tell you what, a bear will go to those before they'll go to bacon grease.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'd nose bag them to keep, them from flipping cubes out that a bear could get. So like if you're on that evening sort, we'd bring in feed. If you're on a morning sort, the wranglers just got to go out at like 3 a.m, find all the horses, run them into the corral, and you nab them out, and then off you go. So we've done it both ways. But
do the horses and mules ever get attacked by the bears in there?
No. I've seen mules run wolves and stuff and bears out of the meadow. Like that big horse of mine, that black horse, Larry, he would chase bears. Like he lived to chase bears. We were chasing one day, like he's like 31 or 2 or something at the time. And like this bear just wouldn't get off the trail. So I just kicked the horse up to get him into the bear's pressure zone. So hopefully the bear would break off and like my horse just like pins his ears and off like a rocket. And we're going out through the meadow and I'm trying to stop him, but like those big size 5, like big draft horse feet, like he was going to strike that. Like we got right up on that bear before I got him shut down.
Damn.
But
I imagine even to a bear, a big old draft horse with a dude on top is pretty opposing figure.
Yeah.
Well, we used to run them all the time just to like, cause you can't shoot them. So they don't have any reason to fear people. So like you'd see a bear, you'd run him, you know, and some of the kids still do that. I'm too old to do that shit.
Huh. Well, we're hitting 2 hours. Is there anything that you would tell somebody that has a wilderness hunt, what to prepare for, how to prepare? You're going into the Selway, Bitterroot, Bob, Thorofare. How would you prepare for it?
I would shoot. And not shoot off a bench. I'd shoot prone. I'd shoot standing up. I'd shoot like, you know,
Sitting, snailing.
Yeah. Get in as many weird positions as you can. You know, when we were kids, what we'd do is go out to the rock piles and shoot rabbits with our rifles, like bring a 308 out because you end up in all kinds of weird positions, but teach you how to shoot. I'd be in shape and, trust your guides. It's a big thing. They're back there all the time. Even if they haven't been back there, they've been a guide somewhere else and they're going to put you on something. Like, I know it's a lot of times it's difficult for guys who have saved and they have so much invested in this hunt. And then they meet somebody that is going to be their guide that, you know, first impressions, sometimes guides aren't very good at that. And, but to believe them, give them a chance, be part of the team, you know.
Is there a way to get horse ready without having a horse for 30-mile ride one day, one way?
Not really. Not that I know of.
Well, like you said, core exercises, I think is probably a big thing.
I think that the core.
And when you're in the gym and there's that machine that it seems like only the girls do.
Yeah.
Where they squeeze it in or they push it out.
Groins.
I would fuck with that. Yeah. I would fuck with that a little bit. If somebody look at me, I'd be like, I'm riding a horse.
Not why the girls using it.
Yeah, not why the girls use it.
You know, there's some stables around in different towns, depending on where you are, that some people can take riding lessons if they've never been on a horse before. It's going to be different because it's going to be like arena style riding, but I mean, that would be better than like going to the old school Dairy Queen and sitting in the saddles, you know, that they used to have.
I forgot about those till you said that.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, thanks for coming on. That was a great
thanks
podcast.
for having me.
His book is Mountain Drifter, Hunting Camp Adventures from Wyoming's Thorofare. Zach Bowman. You can, you said Amazon, so Kindle.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the big websites you can pick it up from. I've got a Facebook that's Mountain Drifter. It's the cover photo. So if you see a guy standing on a horse.
Yep.
That's me. You can contact me. We can do Venmo. We can do whatever you want to do. But we'll get you a copy.
I'll tell you, I didn't have, this isn't a slight to you, I just didn't have high hopes for the book. I fucking thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
That's saying a lot.
It is. Like I was engaged the whole time. Like I wanted to read it.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. And like I said, there's a bunch of guys that should have wrote a book like that's these guides that have been in there for a long time. They have similar versions of the same stories. And like the real crime in all this is that those stories aren't getting told. So if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. Somebody needs to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on and thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.